I set the table for my parents every night for a week, and they never came. Not once. For plates, point four folded napkins, point four glasses catching the soft light from the kitchen, and every night, the candles burned lower while my phone stayed silent. My name is Sophia Taylor. I'm 28, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I coordinate restoration projects for historic hotels, places people love to photograph but rarely look at closely. I spend my days fixing details others overlook. Hairline cracks, warped wood, forgotten corners. I didn't realize I was doing the same thing with my family. For 4 years, I hadn't had dinner with my parents in the same room. Not Christmas, not Thanksgiving, not even my birthday. There was always a reason. A schedule conflict, a last-minute change, something more important, or someone. So when they finally agreed to visit, I didn't hesitate. I paid for everything. Round-trip flights, checked bags, airport pickup, a rental car so they wouldn't feel restricted. I cleaned my townhouse until it looked like a magazine spread. Fresh flowers on the table, linen pressed, floors polished. I cooked the meals they used to love. Pot roast, the way my mother made it when I was little. Lemon pie, the kind my father swore no bakery could ever get right. The first night, I lit the candles at 6:30. At 7:10, I texted, "Dinner's ready whenever you are." Smiling face with smiling eyes. At 8:02, my mother replied, "Long travel day, sweetie. Maybe tomorrow." I told myself not to overthink it. People get tired. Flights are exhausting. They just needed time to settle in. They were staying with my sister, Hannah, 30 minutes away. That mattered more than I wanted to admit. The second night, I set the table again. Same 4 plates. Same quiet hope. I texted earlier this time. "Made your favorite tonight. Come whenever you're ready." Hours passed. At noon the next day, Hannah posted a photo. My parents were at a waterfront restaurant, smiling, holding her kids, glasses raised like this was a celebration. Caption, "Best surprise visit ever." My mother commented, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." I read that sentence 3 times. Wouldn't miss it for the world. But they had missed me for 4 years. And somehow, that had never needed an explanation. By the third night, I stopped pretending I didn't see the pattern. I still set the table, but not because I believed they were coming. I needed to see it. For plates, point 4 empty chairs, point 1 daughter still waiting. I called my father that afternoon. "Hey, Soph," he said, casual, like we had just spoken yesterday. I could hear laughter in the background. Kids running. Dishes clinking. "I was wondering what time you and Mom might come over tonight," I said. "Dinner's ready again." There was a pause, just long enough to hear the truth before he said it. "Tonight might be tricky," he replied. "Hannah's place is just easier with the kids." Easier. 30 minutes had become a barrier. My house had become an option. "I flew you here to see me," I said, keeping my voice steady. "We are seeing you," he answered. "We're in the same city." That line landed harder than any insult. Being nearby counted as love. Showing up did not. That night, I didn't eat. I just sat at the table and watched the candles burn down to nothing. And somewhere between the silence and the empty chairs, something inside me changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. Because by then, I had already opened my laptop and started adding up every dollar I had spent on them over the last 4 years. Not for revenge, for clarity. And once I saw the number, I knew this wasn't just about dinner anymore. This was about value. And who, in this family, had been paying for it. By the time the 4th night came, I wasn't hoping anymore. I was observing. I still set the table. Same 4 plates. Same folded napkins. Same quiet ritual. But this time, it wasn't about welcoming them. It was about facing the truth without softening it. I opened my laptop and pulled up my banking history. At first, I told myself I was just checking a few recent transfers. Just curiosity. Just confirmation. But once I started scrolling, I didn't stop. 2 years ago. 3 years. 4. There it was. Mortgage assistance when my father's consulting slowed down. Small at first. Then regular. Monthly. Quiet. Unspoken. Prescription payments for my mother. She said insurance was complicated, so I handled it. Auto pay. No reminders needed. Car repairs. Emergency expenses. Just this once, turned into again, then into something that didn't need asking anymore. Then Hannah. Childcare support when her sitter canceled. Then again the following month. Then after-school program fees, just for 1 semester. That semester never ended. I kept scrolling. Transfer after transfer. Amounts that didn't feel dramatic in the moment, but stacked into something heavy when seen all at once. When I finally stopped, my hands were cold. I added it up carefully. No rounding. No exaggeration. $62,840. $62,840. Not including the flights. Not including the rental car. Not including the groceries sitting untouched in my refrigerator. I stared at the number and felt something shift. For years, they had called me independent, strong, capable, self-sufficient. I used to hear that as pride. Now I understood what it really meant. It meant I didn't require attention. It meant I didn't need showing up. It meant they could take what I gave and still choose somewhere else to be. I opened a clean spreadsheet. Date, amount, reason, confirmation. Every transfer became a line. Every line became a pattern. Every pattern became a story I could no longer ignore. Family support. That's what I titled it at first. Then I stopped, deleted it, and renamed the file. Family support final record. The word final sat there longer than anything else I typed. That night, my phone buzzed at 9:17. My father. Long day. We'll try tomorrow. I looked at the message, then at the table in front of me. For plates. Still untouched. Tomorrow. They had said tomorrow for 4 years. I typed one word. Okay. But this time, I didn't mean it the way I used to. Tomorrow wasn't another chance. Tomorrow was a deadline. The next morning, I woke up early. Habit, not hope. I made coffee, sat by the window, watched the light move across the kitchen floor. Then I sent a message. Good morning. I can make brunch here whenever you're ready. No rush. I even added a smile. I don't know why. Maybe because some part of me still wanted to make this easy for them. 2 hours passed. Then 4. At noon, Hannah posted again. My parents were at a waterfront cafe, laughing with her kids. My father had his arm around one of them. My mother leaned into the frame like she belonged exactly where she was. Caption: family mornings like this make everything worth it. My mother commented almost immediately. Wouldn't miss it for anything. Anything. I read that word slowly. Because apparently, I was not included in it. Around 3 p.m., I called my father again. He answered on the second ring. Background noise. Same as before. Busy. Alive. Full. Hey, Soph, he said. I kept my voice even. I was checking what time you and Mom wanted to come over today. There was a pause. Then the explanation. Hannah's got a lot planned. It's just easier staying here with the kids. Easier. I looked at my kitchen. At the meals I had cooked. At the space I had prepared for them. At the week I had cleared just to be available. I flew you here to see me, I said again. A sigh. Sophia, don't make this into something bigger than it is. We're in the same city. That line again. That same quiet dismissal dressed as logic. Something inside me stopped trying to argue. Because I finally understood. They weren't confused. They were choosing. That evening, I set the table one more time. Not out of hope. Not out of habit. But because I needed one final, undeniable picture of what this was. For plates. For chairs. No family. And for the first time all week, I didn't look at my phone. I looked at my laptop. At the spreadsheet. At the number. $62,840. And I asked myself a question I had avoided for years. If I stopped giving, would they still come? I didn't answer it that night. But I already knew what I was going to do next. And I knew it was going to change everything. By the 5th day, the pattern was no longer subtle. It was precise. I would wake up early, make coffee, and send a message. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Something open, something easy, something that required almost no effort from them. Come by any time. No pressure. Whenever you're ready. And every time, the response followed the same structure. Delayed. Soft. Non-committal. That sounds lovely. Sweetie, let's see how the day goes. Hannah has something planned, but we'll try. They never said no. They never said yes. They kept me in a space where I couldn't accuse them of rejecting me, but I couldn't count on them either. That was the strategy. Keep it vague enough to avoid guilt. Keep it distant enough to avoid effort. And I let it happen for 4 years. Around noon that day, I stopped checking my messages and opened social media instead. Hannah had posted again. My parents were in her kitchen this time. My father was fixing a loose cabinet handle. My mother stood at the counter folding laundry like she lived there. Caption: nothing like having Mom and Dad here. There was something about that photo that felt heavier than the others. Not because of what they were doing, but because of how natural it looked. They weren't visiting her. They were part of her life. And I was nearby. That was the difference. Not distance. Placement. At 2:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Sweetie, today got away from us again. Maybe dinner tomorrow. Tomorrow. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I walked into the kitchen and looked at the table I hadn't set yet. For the first time all week, it was empty. No plates. No candles. No illusion. Just a surface. Clear. Honest. At 4:12 p.m., there was a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, Olivia Monroe stood there holding 2 takeout bags and a look I recognized immediately. Concern sharpened into anger. Sophia, she said, stepping inside without waiting. If you cooked another untouched meal, I'm throwing your entire kitchen into the harbor. I tried to laugh, but it didn't land. She walked into the dining area and stopped. The table was empty. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Good, she said. Progress. We sat down with the takeout. It was the first real meal I had eaten all week. Halfway through, my phone lit up again. Hannah had posted another photo. This time, it was a baseball game. My parents sat in the stands with her family. My father held a giant pretzel. My mother wore a team hoodie like she had planned the night weeks in advance. Caption: Spontaneous family night. Olivia reached across the table and turned my phone face down. You flew them here, she said. You paid for everything. And they haven't shown up once. I know, I said quietly. No, she replied. You've been pretending not to know. That's different. I didn't argue. Because she was right. I had been translating their behavior into something softer. Something easier to accept. But the evidence was right there. Every day, every photo, every empty chair. I don't want to be cruel, I said. Olivia leaned back and looked at me carefully. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, she said. It only feels that way to people who benefited from you not having any. That sentence didn't hit all at once. It settled slowly, like something I had always known but never said out loud. After she left, the house felt different. Not quieter, clearer. I stood in front of the hallway mirror and caught my reflection. For a second, I didn't see myself at 28. I saw a version of me at 12, sitting on the stairs in a dress that had gone out of style before the event even started. Waiting. I saw a 16-year-old me, telling friends it didn't matter that my father missed my debate final. I saw a 22-year-old me wiring money home from my first real paycheck, while my mother told relatives I was too busy to visit. Different years. Same pattern. I went back to my laptop, opened the spreadsheet, then added a second tab. Active support, mortgage, prescriptions, car expenses, childcare, subscriptions, things that had become normal, expected, invisible. At the bottom of the page, I typed one sentence in bold. Stop funding people who do not show up for you. I stared at it for a long time, not because I disagreed, but because I knew what it would cost. This wasn't about one missed dinner. This was about rewriting the role I had been playing my entire life. The dependable one, the easy one, the one who made everything work quietly. That night, I didn't set the table. I didn't send a message. I didn't check their photos. I closed the laptop and sat in the silence. Not waiting. Deciding. Because the next move wasn't going to be emotional. It was going to be final. On the 6th day, my mother finally called. Not a message. Not a delayed reply. A call. I answered while standing in the restored lobby of a historic hotel my team had spent months repairing. Hand-carved wood panels. Marble columns we rebuilt piece by piece. Details most people would walk past without noticing. Sweetie, she said, bright, distracted. We may not make it tonight. Hannah promised the kids a movie night, and your father is exhausted. There was no apology in her voice. No hesitation. Just information. I looked across the lobby at a column we had saved from collapse because someone decided it was worth preserving. And for a moment, I wondered what would happen if I stopped fixing things no one else protected. Mom, I said calm. You leave in 2 days. I know, honey, she replied quickly. This trip just got so busy. Maybe you can come over to Hannah's tomorrow morning before we head out. There it was. The invitation. Not to my home. To hers. I almost said yes. That old reflex. Accept whatever is offered. Adjust yourself. Call it enough. Instead, I asked the question I had avoided all week. Why didn't you stay with me? Silence. Then her tone shifted slightly. Softer, but not more honest. Oh, Sophia, don't start. Don't start. For years. 6 days. Endless invitations. And the conversation I wasn't allowed to start was the only one that mattered. Hannah has more space, she continued. The kids needed us. And you're so independent. We knew you'd understand. Independent. That word again. Not as a compliment. As a reason. I paid for the flights, I said. We appreciate that. She replied quickly, almost rehearsed. I bought food for the entire week. I asked you every day to come over. A pause. Then the shift. You're making this sound like we abandoned you. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't you? She didn't answer. In the background, I heard Hannah's voice. Mom, are you still on the phone? The kids are waiting. My mother lowered her voice. We'll talk later, okay? Love you. The call ended before I could respond. I stood there, phone still in my hand, surrounded by a building full of things that had survived neglect because someone had stepped in at the right time. But people are not buildings. You cannot restore someone who refuses to show up. That evening, I didn't go home right away. I stayed at the office longer than necessary, reviewing documents I had already approved, answering emails that could have waited, delaying, not the decision, just the moment. Because once I acted, there would be no version of this where things stayed the same. At 8:03 p.m., my phone buzzed. My father. Long day. We'll try tomorrow. Tomorrow. The last day of their visit. The first day they suddenly had time. I stared at the message, then at the quiet screen. And for the first time all week, I didn't feel confused. I felt certain. Not angry. Not emotional. Clear. They had made their choice for 6 days. Now it was my turn. I drove home slowly, noticing things I hadn't paid attention to all week. The empty streetlights. The quiet houses. The steady rhythm of something normal continuing without me forcing it. When I walked into my townhouse, the kitchen was dark. No candles. No plates. No performance. I turned on the light and sat at the table, not to wait, but to work. I opened my laptop, pulled up the spreadsheet. $62,840. Every transfer. Every date. Every reason. No exaggeration. No emotion. Just facts. Then I opened a new document. Subject line. Travel and financial support. I stared at the blinking cursor. For years, I had written messages that softened everything. Messages that made it easier for them to accept what I gave without questioning it. This wasn't going to be one of those. This one had to be exact. Measured. Final. I began typing. Not fast. Not dramatic. Line by line. Clear. Direct. Respectful. And completely different from anything I had ever said to them before. Halfway through, I stopped. Looked at the table. Empty. Then I stood up, walked to the counter, and picked up my phone. I opened the photo I had taken on the first night. 4 plates. Candles lit. No one there. I looked at it for a long time. Not as proof for them. As proof for myself. That this had happened. That I hadn't imagined it. That I wasn't overreacting. Then I went back to the laptop. Finished the email. Attached the spreadsheet. Attached the photo. And placed my hands on the keyboard. I didn't press send. Not yet. Because once I did, the version of me who kept setting the table would be gone. I sat at the table for a long time before I pressed send. Not because I didn't know what I was going to do. Because I understood exactly what it would cost. For years, I had kept things smooth. Quiet. Manageable. I absorbed inconvenience so no one else had to feel it. I translated neglect into misunderstanding. I turned silence into patience. This was the first time I wasn't doing that. I read the email one more time. No accusations. No emotional language. No paragraphs asking them to love me correctly. Just facts. Clear. Structured. Final. Mom and Dad, I paid for this trip because I believed you wanted to spend time with me after 4 years apart. Instead, you chose to stay with Hannah and declined every invitation I made. I respect your choice. Now, I'm making mine. Effective immediately, I will no longer provide monthly financial support, cover household expenses, or pay for family costs that are not mine. Attached is a record of the support I have provided since 2022 for clarity. I am also canceling the rental car extension and will not be covering any additional travel changes. Your return flights remain active. After that, you will need to manage your own expenses. I paused there, then added one more line. This is not a reaction. This is a boundary. I attached the spreadsheet. Then I attached the photo. 4 plates. Candles lit. No one there. I didn't attach it to hurt them. I attached it because I was done letting them pretend this was a misunderstanding. At 10:14 p.m., I pressed send. For a few seconds, nothing happened. No immediate response. No incoming call. Just silence. But it felt different from the silence I had been sitting in all week. That silence had been empty. This one had weight. I closed my laptop and stood up. Then I opened my phone and began doing something I should have done years earlier. I went into my banking app, canceled the automatic mortgage transfer scheduled for the first of the month, removed my card from my mother's prescription account after confirming her own payment method was listed, stopped the recurring child care payment to Hannah's after-school program. I sent a short note to the provider directing future billing to the parent on file. I canceled the streaming bundle, the roadside assistance plan, the car insurance contribution my father had treated as permanent. Each action was simple. Click. Confirm. Done. But each one felt like removing a piece of weight I didn't realize I was carrying. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. At 11:42 p.m., my phone buzzed. My father. What is this email? 2 minutes later, my mother called. Then Hannah. Then my mother again. I watched the screen light up, one notification after another. For the first time all week, they were responding immediately. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. I placed my phone face down on the counter and walked into the kitchen. The table was still clear. No plates. No candles. No performance. Just space. At 12:03 a.m., my phone vibrated again. A voicemail from my father. I played it on speaker. It started calm. Sophia, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Then his tone shifted. This is not how family handles things. I listened to the message all the way through. Then I played it again. Not because I needed to understand it. Because I needed to hear it without translating it. Without softening it. Without making it easier to accept. Family. That word had been used to justify everything. The expectation that I would give. The assumption that I would adjust. The belief that I would stay available, no matter what. But now, for the first time, it was being used against me. Because I had stopped. At 12:17 a.m., my mother left a voicemail. Her voice was tight. Sophia, call me back. You need to fix this. Fix this. Not, we need to talk. Not, we're sorry. Fix this. I didn't call back. Not that night. Because I already knew what they were going to say. They were going to explain. Minimize. Reframe. They were going to turn a week of choices into a misunderstanding. And if I let them, I would end up apologizing for finally saying something true. So I turned my phone off. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like everything else I had done that day. Then I went to bed. For the first time all week. I slept without waiting for a message. Without checking my phone. Without imagining footsteps that never came. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight coming through the window. And a decision that had already been made. Because whatever happened next, I wasn't undoing it. The call started before sunrise. My phone lit up at 6:12 a.m., then again at 6:18, then 6:23. By the time I finished making coffee, I had 12 missed calls, 7 messages, and 1 voicemail marked urgent. My father. I pressed play while standing at the kitchen counter. It began the way his messages always did, controlled, reasonable. Sophia, we need to talk about this. A pause. Then the shift. This is not how you handle family. I stopped the voicemail before it ended. Not because I didn't want to hear it. Because I already had. Different words. Same message. You're wrong for changing the rules. I set the phone down, took a breath, and let the silence settle. For the first time all week, the house felt steady. No waiting. No anticipation. Just quiet. At 8:23 a.m., my phone rang again. My mother. I answered. She didn't say hello. Sophia, you need to undo whatever you did. Her voice was tight. Controlled, but barely. Good morning, Mom, I said. Did you read the email? Of course I read it, she snapped. Your father read it. Hannah read it. We all read your little spreadsheet. Little. Over $62,000 reduced to something small because it made them uncomfortable. Then you understand? I said. No, she replied immediately. I understand that you are punishing us because we stayed where it made practical sense. Practical. 30 minutes had become logic. Absence had become convenience. I flew you here to see me, I said. And we came, she insisted. We're here, aren't we? That line again. Presence without participation. Location without effort. I didn't raise my voice. You were here for 6 days, I said. I invited you every day. You didn't come once. There was a pause. Then my father's voice joined the call. She had put me on speaker. That's unfair, Sophia, he said. Is it? I asked. Hannah needed help with the kids, he continued. And I needed my parents. Silence. Not long, but long enough. My mother filled it. You don't have children, Sophia. You don't understand what real family obligations look like. There it was. The justification. The hierarchy. The explanation for why I was optional. I felt something settle inside me. Not anger. Clarity. So my money counts as family, I said. But I don't. That's not what we're saying, she replied quickly. It is exactly what you're saying, I said. Her tone changed again. Softer. Strategic. Honey, this is a bad time. Your father's work has been slow. The mortgage is coming up. My medication needs to be renewed. Hannah already planned around that childcare help. There it was. Not the apology. The consequence. You can't just pull everything at once, she said. I took a breath. I can't, I said. I already did. That's selfish, she replied. The word landed clean. Predictable. Almost expected. Selfish. Not for ignoring me. Not for choosing someone else. For stopping. My father tried a different approach. Can we at least talk about this in person? He asked. We can come by today. Today. The last day. After 6 days of maybe tomorrow. After lunch, my mother added quickly. After lunch. I looked at the kitchen. At the empty table. At the space where I had waited all week. No, I said. There was a pause. Sharp this time. What do you mean no? My mother asked. I'm not available today, I said. Her voice rose slightly. Sophia Taylor, we flew all this way. I know, I said. I paid for it. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. For years, I had avoided saying that sentence out loud. Not because it wasn't true. Because it changed the dynamic. My father spoke again, quieter now. So that's it. We make one mistake and you turn your back on us. I didn't hesitate. One mistake is missing dinner because of traffic, I said. This was a week of choices. My mother started crying. But even through it, there was structure. I hope you're proud of yourself. I looked at the table again. At the space that used to hold expectation. I'm not proud, I said. I'm awake. The line went quiet. No response. No argument. Nothing left to soften. I ended the call. My hands were steady. Not because it was easy. Because it was clear. A few minutes later, a message came through from Hannah. Mom is crying. I hope this was worth it. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I typed back. I set the table for her every night. She knows what was worth missing. I sent it. Then I blocked the family group chat. Not forever. Just long enough to hear myself think. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. Blocking the group chat didn't stop them. It just changed how they reached me. By noon, my phone buzzed from a number I didn't recognize. I knew who it was before I listened. Hannah. I let it play on speaker while I stood in the kitchen. Soph. She began, already irritated. I know you're upset, but you're being extreme. Mom and Dad are old. They don't need this stress. I didn't respond. You make more than all of us, she continued. So, I don't understand why you're acting like helping family is some huge burden. There it was. The equation. Because I had built something stable, I owed them stability. Because I didn't complain, I didn't get to stop. I stopped the message halfway through. I didn't need the rest. A minute later, my father texted. Please call. Your mother is very upset. We are at Hannah's and everyone is fighting. Everyone is fighting. Not we hurt you. Not we miss you. Fighting. The money had done what my silence never could. It made them react. I stood there for a moment, phone in my hand, deciding. Then I called. Not because they asked. Because I wanted to hear it without filters. Without group chats. Without careful wording. Hannah answered my father's phone. Not intentionally. I could hear it immediately. Voices overlapping. Tension sharp. My mother. She can't just cancel everything. Richard, you said you had it handled. My father. Lower, defensive. I thought she'd be happy we came at all. Hannah. Louder. Well, I can't cover after-school care this month. I already paid a deposit for the beach rental. The beach rental. I closed my eyes. They had been planning another trip while I was covering their bills. Then someone noticed the line was open. Sophia? The room went quiet. Don't hang up, I said. My father took the phone. You weren't supposed to hear that, he said. I know, I replied. That's why it was honest. He exhaled slowly. Look, things got complicated. No, I said. They got clear. Silence again. My mother came on the line. Her voice was different now. Not controlled. Not structured. Smaller. Sophia, please. We can fix this. Come over tonight. We'll sit down together. At Hannah's? I asked. Another pause. That answer told me everything. Even the apology was happening somewhere else. Come to my house, I said. If you want to talk to me as your daughter. No one spoke. Then my father tried to redirect. We can come by later, he said quickly. No, I replied. You had 6 nights. My mother's voice rose again, strained. Don't do this, Sophia. For the first time, I understood exactly what that meant. Don't change. Don't make this harder. Don't make us adjust. I already did, I said. Hannah cut in, sharper now. You're being dramatic. You always do this. You make everything about being left out. I didn't react immediately. I let the words sit. Because this wasn't new. This was how it had always been explained. Not exclusion. Sensitivity. Not absence. Overreaction. I kept my voice steady. I paid for Mom and Dad to fly here to see me, I said. They stayed at your house. You posted photos every day. When did you ask why I wasn't there? No answer. Not from her. Not from anyone. My father tried again. We'll come tonight, he said. Tonight doesn't work, I replied. Doing what? My mother asked, almost offended. I looked at the time. At the message Olivia had sent earlier that morning. A reservation. A small jazz bar downtown. She had written, "You are not spending another night waiting." I'm having dinner, I said. With who? My mother asked. With someone who shows up. The line went quiet. No argument. No explanation. Just silence. Because there wasn't a response to that. My mother spoke again, softer now. Please, Sophia. But there was no structure left in her voice. No strategy. Just something closer to realization. I didn't extend the moment. I'll talk to you later, I said. Then I ended the call. Not abruptly. Just finished. Because for the first time all week, I wasn't asking them to come to me. I was deciding what I would accept and what I wouldn't. That evening, I didn't rush. For the first time all week, I moved at my own pace. I left work on time. Walked home without checking my phone every few minutes. Let the silence stay where it was. Unfilled, undisturbed. At 7:12 p.m., I met Olivia at a small jazz bar downtown. Low lights. Soft music. The kind of place where conversations didn't need to be loud to matter. She looked at me carefully when I sat down. You didn't cancel, she said. No, I replied. She nodded once. Good. We ordered food. Real food. Hot. Immediate. No waiting. No placeholders. No maybe tomorrow. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed. Then again. Then again. I didn't pick it up right away. I took a sip of water. Finished my sentence. Let the moment stay intact. Then I turned the screen over. A photo from my father. My townhouse. The front door. Caption, "We're here." I stared at it. Timestamp, 8:16 p.m. For 1 second, just one, I felt the old reflex. Stand up. Go home. Open the door. Apologize for not being there. Make something quick. Reheat what's left. Pretend this counted. Pretend this erased the week. I could see it clearly. The version of me who would have done exactly that. Without hesitation. Without question. But that version of me had spent 6 nights setting a table no one came to. I looked up. Olivia was watching me. Not asking. Not interrupting. Just present. What is it? She asked quietly. They're at my house, I said. And, she replied. I didn't answer immediately. Because the answer wasn't about them. It was about me. I picked up my phone and typed. I told you I was unavailable. Safe flight tomorrow. I read it once. No emotion. No explanation. Just truth. Then I hit send. A few seconds later, my father replied. Your mother is crying in the car. I stared at the message. Not because it changed anything. Because I understood what it was meant to do. Shift the focus. Turn their discomfort into my responsibility. For years, that would have worked. I would have gone home immediately. Tried to fix it. Made their reaction the priority. But this time, I didn't move. I typed one more message. I cried at that table alone for a week. I didn't add anything else. I didn't soften it. I didn't explain it. I sent it. Then I turned my phone off. Not dramatically. Just finished. Olivia didn't say anything right away. She didn't need to. We sat there, music filling the space, plates still warm, conversation still real. For the first time all week, I wasn't somewhere else in my head. I wasn't checking the door. I wasn't listening for footsteps. I wasn't waiting. I was there. Fully. Present. At 9:03 p.m., the band shifted into a slower set. People around us leaned into their conversations. Glasses clinked softly. The city moved forward without needing me to hold it together. And something inside me settled. Not relief. Not victory. Something quieter. Stability. Because the decision had already been made. Not in the message. Not in the call. Days earlier. At that table. When I finally stopped pretending that waiting was love. Later that night, when I turned my phone back on, There were no new messages, no apologies, no explanations, just silence. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one had direction. The next morning, they left Charleston. They flew home without seeing me inside of my house. That sentence used to sound like failure. Now it sounded like evidence. They had come all this way, stayed 30 minutes away, spent 6 days choosing Hannah's house. And when they finally stood at my door, it was because the money stopped. I didn't need to say that out loud. I just needed to see it clearly. Because once you see the pattern without explaining it away, you can't go back to not knowing. The first week after they left was not quiet. It was loud in a different way. Not calls, not visits, messages, long ones, careful ones, strategic ones. My mother wrote first, paragraph after paragraph about sacrifice, about motherhood, about everything she had done for me growing up, about how deeply I had hurt her. She didn't mention the 6 dinners. She didn't mention the empty table. She didn't mention Charleston. My father's messages came next. Shorter, more practical. Can we talk about the mortgage? Then, a few hours later, your mother misses you. Then, maybe just one more month while we adjust. Adjust. As if the only disruption here was financial. As if nothing else had shifted. Hannah's response was different. Not direct messages. Public ones. Quotes about loyalty. About people who forget where they come from. About gratitude. One photo appeared briefly. An expensive beach rental, oceanfront, wide windows, clean lines. It was gone within an hour. But I had seen it. They had been planning a vacation. While I was covering their expenses. While I was setting a table they never came to. For the first time, I didn't respond to everything. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. I waited. Not for them. For myself. Then I sent one message. Written. Clear. Unambiguous. I love you, but I will not resume financial support. If you want a relationship with me, it must be based on respect, consistency, and accountability, not money. I read it twice. No anger. No apology. Just a line that hadn't existed before. After that, I stopped replying. Not to punish them. To make space for something that had never been allowed to exist. Consequence. And it came quickly. My parents didn't collapse. They didn't lose everything. Nothing dramatic happened. They adjusted. My father picked up additional consulting work. Work he had been too tired to pursue when my transfers were automatic. My mother switched her prescriptions to a lower-cost pharmacy. Something I had suggested 2 years earlier. Hannah changed the kids' after-school program to a less expensive option. The beach rental disappeared. Quietly. No announcement. No explanation. Just gone. Life didn't fall apart. It reorganized. And that realization was harder than I expected. Because it meant something simple. I hadn't been saving them. I had been making things easier. For them. At my expense. Without acknowledgement. Without balance. Without presence. That truth didn't feel empowering. It felt precise. Like removing a layer of something that had been protecting me from seeing the full picture. A month passed. Then another. The messages slowed. Not because things were fixed. Because the dynamic had changed. I was no longer the default solution. One afternoon, a letter arrived. Not a message. Not a text. A handwritten envelope. My father's handwriting. I opened it at the kitchen table, the same one I had set every night that week. The paper was simple. No long introduction. No performance. I've replayed that week in Charleston, he wrote. I can't defend it. I read that sentence again. Slowly. Because it was the first time anyone had said something without turning it. Without softening it. Without asking me to adjust. I thought because you didn't ask for much, you didn't need much. I stopped there. Closed my eyes for a moment. Not because it fixed anything. Because it was accurate. I had made it easy to overlook me. Not intentionally, but consistently. The letter didn't ask for money. It didn't try to negotiate. It didn't offer a timeline. Just that. Acknowledgement. Responsibility. It was small, but it was real. My mother didn't write. Not at first. Her silence lasted longer. Then came shorter messages. Less structured. Less certain. Until one evening, she called. And when I answered, she didn't explain. She didn't defend. She said one sentence. I don't know how to apologize without making excuses. I didn't respond immediately. Because I recognized something in that. Not perfection. Not resolution. Effort. I want to learn, she added. That was new. Not a request for me to understand. A willingness to change. I sat at the table, the same place where everything had shifted. And for the first time since Charleston, the conversation wasn't about what I would give. It was about what they would do differently. And that changed everything. 3 months after Charleston, my parents asked to visit again. This time, the message was different. Not an assumption, a question. What days would work for you? I read it twice before replying. Not because I didn't understand it. Because I needed to decide what I wanted the answer to be. For years, I had built my schedule around them. Cleared time. Adjusted plans. Made space without being asked. This time, I opened my calendar. Looked at my week. And chose. Saturday works, I replied. Late afternoon. No explanation. No. Flexibility added to make it easier. Just a boundary. They booked their own flights. That detail mattered. Not because of the money. Because of what it represented. No expectation. No silent transfer. No automatic support. They reserved a small hotel downtown. Not Hannah's house. Not my house. Neutral. Deliberate. When they arrived, my mother texted. We're in town. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. No, maybe. No delay. Just confirmed. Saturday came quietly. I didn't spend the morning cleaning every surface. I didn't rearrange the house like it was being inspected. I made lunch for myself. Took a walk. Answered a few emails. At 4:02 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Not early. Not late. On time. I opened it. My mother stood there holding a small bouquet of flowers. My father was next to her, holding a paper box from a local bakery. For a second, no one moved. Not because we didn't recognize each other. Because this version of us was new. Hi, my mother said. Hi, I replied. They stepped inside. Slowly. Like they understood this wasn't automatic anymore. The house was the same. But the dynamic wasn't. I didn't set the table for 4. I set it for 3. That was intentional. Hannah wasn't part of this visit. And for the first time, I didn't try to merge every relationship into one space just to keep things smooth. We sat down. Dinner started quietly. Not uncomfortable. Just careful. My father placed the bakery box on the table. Lemon pie, he said. From that place on King Street. I looked at it. Then at him. You always said no bakery could get it right, I said. He gave a small smile. I was wrong. That sentence wasn't about the pie. We all knew it. We ate. Not quickly. Not filling silence with noise. Just present. At one point, my mother reached across the table. Not dramatically. Not to interrupt. Just to rest her hand lightly near mine. I'm sorry we made you feel optional, she said. The sentence was simple. Direct. And for a moment, the room felt still. Not because it erased anything. Because it named it correctly. Optional. That was the word. I didn't rush to respond. I didn't say it was okay. Because it wasn't. But I didn't reject it. Either. Thank you for saying it, I replied. That was enough. Dinner continued. Not perfect. Not fixed. But different. They asked about my work. Listened without interrupting. Followed details instead of redirecting the conversation. Small things. But consistent. After they left, I stood in the kitchen for a moment. 3 plates in the sink. Not 4. Not empty. Used. I washed them slowly. Not because I had to. Because I noticed the difference. No performance. No waiting. No guessing. Just something simple. Real. That night, my phone stayed quiet. No follow-up messages trying to reinterpret the evening. No requests. No financial questions. Just space. Clean. Balanced. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had hosted something. I felt like I had participated in it. On my terms. The week after that dinner felt unfamiliar. Not because something dramatic happened. Because nothing did. No sudden conflict. No emotional swings. No requests disguised as concern. Just consistency. My mother sent a message on Monday. Hope your week is going well. No follow-up. No hidden question. I replied. Busy but good. And that was it. No shift into finances. No subtle transition into what I could provide. Just a conversation that ended where it should. My father called on Wednesday. Not about the mortgage. Not about work. He asked about a project I had mentioned at dinner. The restoration on a historic hotel near the harbor. He remembered details. Asked specific questions. Listened to the answers. That used to be rare. Not because he didn't care. Because he didn't focus. This time he did. We spoke for 15 minutes. Then he said, I won't keep you. No expectation that I would extend it. No assumption that I had time to give. Just awareness. That was new. Hannah didn't reach out directly. But the noise stopped. No more posts about loyalty. No more indirect messages. Just silence. Not avoidance. Adjustment. A few weeks later, my mother called again. This time, She didn't lead with small talk. I'm working on something, she said. I waited. Budgeting, she added. Properly. I didn't respond right away, because I understood what that meant. Not just numbers. Responsibility. I should have done this years ago, she said. There was no defense in her voice. No attempt to redirect. Just acknowledgement. I didn't realize how much you were covering, she continued. Or maybe I did, and I didn't want to think about it too closely. That sentence landed differently than an apology. It wasn't polished. It was honest. I'm figuring it out, she said. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. That matters, I replied. Because it did. Not perfection. Effort. A few days later, a message came through from my father. A screenshot. His consulting schedule. New clients. Confirmed work. No explanation attached. He didn't need one. It wasn't a request for approval. It was a signal. I'm handling it. That was the difference. Before, everything flowed in one direction. Now, there was balance. Not equal yet, but moving. One evening, I stood in my kitchen again. Same space. Same table. But it looked different. Not because I changed anything physically. Because the meaning had shifted. I wasn't preparing for someone who might not come. I wasn't building a moment that depended on someone else showing up. I was just living in it. That week in Charleston had felt like a break. Sharp. Unavoidable. This felt like something else. Reconstruction. Not of the past. Of the structure going forward. What I would accept. What I would give. What I would stop doing automatically. I thought about the version of myself from that first night. Lighting candles. Checking the time. Translating silence into patience. That version of me wasn't weak. She was consistent. She believed that showing up long enough would eventually be matched. She wasn't wrong. She was early. Too early for people who weren't ready to meet her there. Now, the timing had changed. Not because I waited longer. Because I stopped. That was the shift. Not louder communication. Not better explanations. A boundary that held. Without needing to be repeated. Without needing to be defended. And once it held, everything around it had to adjust. That included me. Because I had to get used to something I hadn't experienced before. Not being needed in the same way. Not being the solution. Not being the quiet support system in the background. At first, that felt like absence. Then it started to feel like space. Useful space. Clear space. Space where something real could exist. Or nothing at all. And either one would be honest. That was the difference. Before, I filled every gap. Now, I allowed them to exist. And in that space, something unexpected started to take shape. Not perfect. Not complete. But real. A relationship that didn't depend on what I gave, but on how we showed up. Consistently. 3 months after that dinner, my parents came back to Charleston again. This time, nothing was assumed. They booked their own flights. They reserved their own hotel. And a week before the trip, my mother sent a message. What day works for you? Not we'll be there. Not we'll try. Just a question. I checked my schedule. Not to make space. To choose. Saturday evening, I replied. They confirmed. No changes. No delays. On Saturday, I didn't rush. I moved through the day at a steady pace. Coffee in the morning. A walk in the afternoon. A few emails. Nothing rearranged to accommodate uncertainty. At 5:58 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Not early, not late. On time. I opened it. My parents stood there, the same as before, but not the same. My mother held flowers again. My father carried a small box. Hi, she said. Hi, I replied. They stepped inside without hesitation this time. Not cautiously, not carefully, just present. I walked into the kitchen, and for a moment, I paused. The table was set. 3 plates, 3 glasses, 3 seats. No extra place setting. No empty chair waiting for someone who might not come. I had set the table that afternoon. Not out of hope. Out of intention. We sat down. Dinner started simply. No tension. No performance. My father opened the box. Lemon pie, he said. I smiled slightly. From the same place? I asked. He nodded. And this time, he added, I know it's good. We ate. Not filling silence. Not avoiding it. Just letting it exist when it needed to. At one point, my mother looked around the room. Not at the furniture. Not at the details. At the table. At the space between us. I keep thinking about that photo you sent. She said quietly. I didn't interrupt. For plates, she continued. No one there. She paused. I didn't understand what it felt like until we stood outside your door that night. That moment stayed still. Because this time, she didn't try to explain it away. She didn't soften it. She named it, and she stayed with it. I'm sorry, she said again. Not louder, not more emotional, just clearer. I nodded. Thank you, I replied. That was enough. After dinner, we didn't rush to end it. We sat for a while longer, talking, not forcing topics, letting conversation move without needing direction. At 7:42 p.m., my father stood up. We should head back, he said. No lingering. No expectation that I would extend the evening. They knew the boundary, and they respected it. At the door, my mother paused. Then she hugged me. Not tightly, not urgently, just present. We'll call next week, she said. I nodded. I'll pick up, I replied. They left. I closed the door and stood there for a moment. The house was quiet again, but not empty. Different. I walked back into the kitchen. The table was still set. Not untouched. Not waiting. Used. 3 plates. I cleared them slowly, washed them, dried them, and as I placed them back in the cabinet, I realized something simple. I wasn't hosting a version of my family anymore. I was participating in a real one. Not perfect, not fixed, but honest. I thought back to that first night. Candles lit. 4 plates. Silence stretching across hours. I had believed that if I kept setting the table, eventually they would come. I was wrong. They didn't come because I waited. They came because I stopped. Because I made space for something else to exist. Something that didn't depend on me giving more, but on everyone showing up, in their own way, at the right time. I learned that family love can be real and still be unbalanced. I learned that being strong doesn't mean being silent. And I learned that boundaries are not a way to push people away. Sometimes, they are the only way to invite them back correctly. That's what changed everything. Not the money, not the argument, not even the distance. The moment I stopped setting the table for people who treated my presence like an option was the moment they finally understood what it meant to be invited. So I'll ask you something honestly. If the people in your life only noticed your value after you stopped giving, would you open the door again? Or would you leave the table empty?